today because everyone knows that we have another event. The expo is going on, but thank you for coming. And I hope I don't screw this up too bad. So welcome to team meeting. Let's see if I can do the clicker. Tell me, is it? There you go. There we go. All right, bucket fills. I need two. Need two today. Now, you got to fill somebody else's bucket besides mine. That's the deal. That's the deal.
Taste that because you so much last night.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Happy to do it. Thank you both for that. Huh? That's what I'm here for, guys. If you need some help, make sure you have my phone number for the Zoom folks, 801-455-8252. Just, give me a call, shoot me a text if I'm available. I'll help right away. It might take me a little bit if I'm in the middle of something, but I look forward to it. And that's obviously my job here as principal broker. So that's one bucket fill. Thank you both for that. Anybody else? Brandt?
I talked to Carrie about this, but I don't know if you saw the recruiting numbers the past few months.
Yeah.
We're talking about her Salt Lake quite a bit.
Congratulations. Absolutely. Doing a terrific job. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to go to announcements. Maybe can I hit an arrow? No. Can I use the keyboard to hit a button or anything?
We try something. Trying. There we go.
Yeah, it's working. Okay. I probably keep screwing it up, but let's look at birthdays. So Melissa, Ellie, Clarabelle, Janet, Erica, Rhonda. Let's wish everybody a happy May birthday. All right. Fantastic. Hopefully some of you are on Zoom. Let's see. We're going to come into announcements, and I think Carrie's going to talk about K-score. I can't see without my glasses either. There you go.
All right. Is this loud enough? Yeah. Okay. So K-score, we talk about this each week. K-score is a school for real estate agents to get their 120 hours. It's completely cost-free. And my favorite students have come from our own agents. So think in your life, the people who might be able to be blessed by real estate and send them my way, and I will take care of them on a weekly basis. We have masterminds every week. We have reviews every week, and it becomes quite an experience for them where out of about 36 students that have graduated, I've only lost 2 to different brokerages. So it's a really good school. They've loved it. And all you have to do is give me their name and I'll take care of the rest.
Excellent. Thank you, Carrie. I'm going to just leave it on. Okay, next we have our vendor spotlight, which we'll come back to, so I don't think they're here yet. Looks like Wednesday, May 15th. We've got a class from 1 to 2:30, creating defining moments with Kimber. So put that on your calendar. And that's in Salt Lake. Thank you. Yep, Brickyard Road. And then we've got, in a couple weeks coming up on our team meeting, Jared Hansen. So for anybody that wants to pick his brain, hear what Jared's doing, I think everybody knows, Jared, you're a rock star. And we look forward to what he has to share and what we can learn from Jared. So that is, I think that's a typo at the bottom of that one, but the new date is May 28th, 11 to 12 here, team meeting. Then we have another KW class, Consumer Experience. I see Kimber's picture on there. That's Wednesday, May 29th, 10:30 to 12. You guys want to do the QR code, or when you see the video, you can scan it. And then we have our council meeting. It's ALC, right? Thursday, this Thursday, 1:30 to 3 here in the training room. And after that, we've got the welcome aboard mixer, get together for socializing and welcome our new agents that come to the office. Be really cool if you can pop in to attend. Again, that's Wednesday, 3 to 4. And does anybody, I don't know if anybody's got anything to say about Splash Summit, but a really cool event coming up June 24th. So save the date for that. Get your tickets ordered, looks like by June 12th. Any adjustments to reservations, just make sure that's done by the 10th. Or excuse me, the 10th. Everything's due by the 10th. And if you have any questions on that, there's plenty of us around to answer questions on it. We can skip this. Just kidding. Hey, broker moment. I'm going to take a minute, and for those that are on Zoom, I've got such a compelling broker moment. You guys are just going to be wowed. I'm being a little facetious there. So, hey, just one thing real quick. For those of you that are selling properties, we got, you know, about lead-based paint, right? Prior to 1978. Okay. And especially if you're listing a property. So my broker moment today is for when you're listing a property, we have to do this disclosure and acknowledgement regarding lead-based paint. Seller's got to sign it. There is a section on here on section 1C. It says seller has attached the EPA pamphlet, protect your family from lead in your home document. That's, we used to call it, we still call it the little blue book. So along with disclosure, part of our disclosure process, right, as seller, we got section 7 disclosures. We have to give this document to the buyer's agent because the buyer needs to sign it. We also have to send a copy, and you can do a PDF. You don't have to print this out. It's on the MLS. Happy to show you where it is. It's on the right side of the forms page. So these two combined, these documents go together. Okay, so we've got to make sure that we do that. I know in the past I haven't been doing it. We don't want our sellers to go into default because this document that we send to the buyers says this needs to be attached to it. So pretty simple. If you got any questions on it, let me know. Just make sure you're doing that as a listing agent. As a buyer's agent, you also, when you sign this document, you're agreeing that the buyer has received a copy. So if you're representing the buyer and the sellers don't send this over, could they be in default? Possibly. But do yourself a favor, cover yourself, send a copy of this to the buyer, okay? And we used to joke about this. This is the book tells you don't eat paint chips. Okay, there's different information in it, but that is my compelling broker moment. And the seller does have the seller has to do that, guys. And we represent our sellers. So there was a case on from the division that came out that talked about that. That's where I got that idea. So that's going to be, it's going to be added to when you're doing your command and the compliance. We're going to have it in there. So any questions on that? It's a super easy one. Okay. So I just wanted to be brief today. So thank you. All right. Coming up next. All right. We got Brandt here, first time home buyer grants, Brandt Money with Intro Lend. So I'm going to turn it over to Brandt. Surrender the microphone. Maybe. Still watching us, right?
You wanna, someone wants to keep track of their questions? All right, we got grants with Brandt. I use it when I can. Awesome. Okay, first we're going to start. We are going to cover some definitions, what grants are, how we can use them, and then go over first-time homebuyer objection handling. Pretty basic stuff, but I have individual grants here locally in I don't have any Utah County. I kind of forgot we're closer to Utah County here in South Valley, but in Salt Lake, I have a bunch of Salt Lake County grants, Davis County grants, and Utah-wide grants too. We'll go over. So we'll kind of dive into that. And what the idea here too is while I'm going through these, start thinking of someone that fits into the box of each grant. Usually after I train these classes, 1 or 2 agents will have someone will pop in their head and they'll make that phone call to try to get their clients excited to just to start the home buying process. So as I'm going through each grant, try to think of someone that can fit in those, at least have the opportunity to talk to them. We're going to go through grants too. A majority of clients, they just aren't going to qualify. They got to fit in this little teeny box, and we'll go over each little box. But what I found is it gets the clients excited to start home buying. So it gets them excited. It gets them going, gets them pre-qualified, pre-approved. They're excited. The grant might not work out, but they're already got their blood boil. They're already excited about it. And you'd be shocked how many times it'd be like, hey, can you just call your parents or your uncle or someone and say, hey, I'm thinking about buying a house. Do we have any money set aside for this? You would be shocked at how many parents would be like, yeah, I have like 15 grand saved for you. I didn't know you wanted to buy right now. So that happens quite a bit. So as I go through each grant and stuff, let's just keep an idea of who we can talk to make that phone call to see if we can get someone excited about the home buying process. Let's go over some terms real quick. You'll hear a bunch of lenders say we speak in foreign language sometimes. So we're going to go over a lot of these home buyer programs have certain restrictions and stuff. So the biggest thing you have with not just a grant, but also your home buying process or your pre-approval amount, it's not necessarily your credit score, it's not necessarily your down payment. It's going to be what we call your debt to income ratio. So your debt to income ratio is pretty much what's showing on your credit report, your minimum credit card payments, auto loan payments, personal loans, student loans. We're going to wrap those payments in with your mortgage payment and take it over your gross income. That's going to give us a percentage that we can't go higher than. So the biggest contributor to your pre-approval or to the grant pre-approval is your debt to income ratio. Again, not necessarily your credit scores or down payment, and the grant will take care of the down payment, or at least a majority of it. The next one is going to be AMI. It's called Area Median Income. The government has a bunch of census tracts, and they're going to go through and see what the average income is for that specific neighborhood. Actually, it's not just the city too. In the city, I have 2 different neighborhoods that have 2 different area median incomes. And that's a big factor with grants because these grant monies are federally earmarked for people to low to middle income families. So we'll go over a little slide on that one too, but a lot of these grants say, hey, you can't make more than 80% of your AMI, which usually only puts you at like 60 grand a year. So that's why I said there's a little box you got to fit in to qualify for these grants, and a lot of it has to do with your AMI. The good thing about that is Fannie and Freddie Mac are coming out with new area median incomes next week or in 2 weeks, so hopefully that number will go up, we get more people approved. Because there's some grants in there you can't make more than, like I said, like 60 grand. Well, then and then you can't really afford, a $250,000 house. So, but like I said, if you fit in the box, great. But that we'll go over AMI, area median income. A lot of these grants have home buyer courses. Your clients have to go online and take a home buyer course. Sometimes it's an hour, but if you do some other grant programs we'll hit, they got to go in for a whole Saturday from like 8 o'clock till like 3. They got to go in and get their certificate. So we got to be aware they got to take home buyer classes for these grants. Most of these grants are geared toward first-time home buyers. The definition of that is they must not have owned a home for 3 years, so couldn't be on title on a home for 3 years. Or if it's a divorce situation and now a single mom's coming back into the workforce, they owned a home, got divorced, she's coming back in. She's now considered a first-time home buyer as well. So that's first-time home buyer definition. AUS, we call it automated underwriting system. If we've never heard of those, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have their own. It's basically, think of Caesar during the Roman times with gladiators. Basically, I put in all their information and the system spits out a thumbs up or a thumbs down. The thumbs up's good. We want a thumbs up. The thumbs down, bad, saying, hey, you can't even go. We need further than you are right now. You got to stop it. So that's where like pre-approvals come through. We need an AUS thumbs up for us to submit our application for the grants. And they have to be qualified mortgages. A qualified mortgage is your basic conforming loans, conventionals, FHAs, VAs, USDAs. You can go almost with any lender doing your first mortgage. It's got to be a qualified mortgage. And then you can get your grant to come on and piggyback onto that. So like no investment loans, bank statement loans or anything like that, you can't do these grant programs with. You have to use a qualified mortgage is what we call them. But you just think of them as your standard first lien mortgage. So those are the definitions. You'll hear me talk about those a lot today, but that's kind of just so we're aware of them. So here's your AMI for Salt Lake County, your area median income from 2023. It's kind of small right here, but most of these grants will only allow you to go to 80%, that number right here, and depending on how many people you have in your household. So when I say this gets really restricted with clients, because if you got a young couple that's 2 people, the household income can't make more than $67,000 a year. So that's why I'm saying you kind of put in this box. Again, this just gets clients excited, start the home buying process. For this, so if you have a family of 5, you can just go to this matrix. They can make up to $91,000, even if it's just little kids. If you have 4 little kids, 2 adults, that's a 6-person home. We can go off that. And I'll send you guys these slides. I'll have Aaron send it out. So you can refer to this. Again, they will be changing these next week. So I'm hoping to see these a little higher. Hopefully up. We want them to go up. So I would assume they're going to go up maybe 10 grand, just through historically. So once they come out, I'm going to be making a round of phone calls too. So, hey, we couldn't qualify last year. I think now we can. Let's start up again and see what we can do. So that's your Salt Lake County. Utah County's different. Davis County's different. Weber County's different, and neighborhoods are different too. So you actually have to plug in the address itself, and it gives you what your 80% AMI is. So again, this will be coming out again, but this is where we're at right now. So when I say about the box, this is the biggest factor usually is it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's like, oh, you make too much money. It's a good thing, but it's a bad thing. It's a good thing you make too much money. It's a bad thing we can't get some money for you for the grant. So that's your Salt Lake County or Salt Lake City income. So that's just kind of what it looks like that we have to refer to. The first grant we'll talk about, and I put little QR codes here. So if you want to scan them, they'll have like a little brochure that pops up that you can market to your clients. This goes straight to their websites. So the first one we like to go over is the CDC, and it's not the Center of Disease Control. It's the Community Development Center Corp of Utah. So this one for Salt Lake County is going to cover Salt Lake County for the most part, Salt Lake City municipality, so like Salt Lake City proper, and then Taylorsville. So with this grant, I could not find a max purchase price. Some of these grants do have max purchase prices. Like West Jordan had one where it's like you can only purchase something $275 or lower. Again, not a lot of people are going to be buying. So I did not find a max purchase price. That is good. Debt to income ratio restrictions, yes. Sometimes they don't. They just say, hey, if you got that thumbs up from the AUS, you're good. This one's saying your front end ratio, so just your mortgage payment over gross income has to be 40%, which is actually kind of standard. And then your max back end, so that's your mortgage payment plus all other debts, can be 50%. Usually I can go to 55 to 56. So we get a little limitation there with debt to income ratio restrictions. They do have an income cap, 80% area median income, which we talked about. So again, this is kind of one, if we can fit them in the box, great. Majority of them we can't, but it gets them excited to start the process of getting pre-approved and start looking at houses. Buyer contributions. So a lot of these grants, your clients do have to come in with their own funds. Sometimes they can be gift from relatives. So Salt Lake County says you have to come with 50% of the down payment. So if we get 10 grand we need 10 grand for the down payment, they got to come in with 5. And then this grant will pop in another 5 grand. Salt Lake City and Taylorsville, you just need $1,000 of your own funds to come in on that one. So funds available. So right now we're in May. The federal government will send the money usually in June to July. That's why we're talking about it right now. So a lot of these grants don't have funds available right now and they go quick. So once they get replenished here in June, if we have any clients, we want to be submitting to lock up those funds. So caveats, if you have more than 10 grand in the bank, you're going to need to come up with the grant. You pretty much, if you have more than 10 grand in the bank, you've got to come in with a lot of money. So, and that's more of a lender thing. It's just, I'm not going to show the underwriters or anything that they have 10 grand in the bank. I'm just going to show a small savings account, which is totally fine. Okay. So that's kind of the caveat there. This one, we don't really see too much of just because of your debt to income ratio restrictions and the income cap. So it's like, which one do you want? Do you want a low debt to income ratio or do you want low incomes? You can't have both. So it's kind of, you kind of get stuck there, but we still put people in those. Last one I did that one was about 4 or 5 years ago, to be honest, but it's still out there. Neighborhood Works. There's one of these that I really, really like. You've probably seen them in any listings in Murray, but Neighborhood Works could cover Salt Lake City, Murray, and Midvale. No max purchase price. Now the grant can go up to 40 grand for Salt Lake City. And then in Murray and Midvale can go up to 30 grand. So that's actually quite a bit of money. Usually these grants aren't that much. So you can go up there. DTI restrictions, again, if I get a thumbs up from the automated underwriting system, we're good there. So again, we can push those ratios. So we don't have any restrictions there. Income cap for Salt Lake City and Midvale, we are stuck at that 80%. However, for Murray City, this is why it's cool. Murray City will go up to 120% AMI. So if you go back to that slide, now I'm clear over here. We can see the far right column I'm now working with. We got a family of 2 or 3. We're sitting over 100K they can make. So that's why I really like this Murray City. I've already applied to a few clients that were really excited. Murray still has some funds available, surprisingly, and Midvale does, but no Salt Lake. Again, those are going to get replenished here in the next month or two. So, and then no buyer contribution, so they don't have to come in with any of their money if they don't have to. Again, this kind of goes to, we still need earnest money. So we got to have that conversation with the clients, be like, hey, we need $1 grand or $2, however you suggest to do it. If we can get the grant up to cover everything, we can get that earnest money refunded back. Just don't make that promise. We can talk about it, but don't say you're getting that back. Say, we'll try to get it back and the grant can cover it, but you're going to need to front something to submit that offer. So just be aware of that one. The caveat here, it's one thing about these grants, they're not really grants per se. You do majority have to pay them back. And it's at some point. So Neighborhood Works grant, you have a 5-year forgivable plan. So your 5-year forgivable plan is every year you stay in that home, 20% of what you owe goes away. So after 5 years, you now don't owe anything. And also you don't have a payment plan on these, so it kind of just sits there as what we call a silent second lien. It kind of just sits there, doesn't chirp or anything. And then every year it just goes down 20%. After 5 years, it's gone. So that's pretty cool. So the idea here is they want you to stay in the house for a while because they want their home buyers in. You do have to use their approved lenders. I'm not an approved lender, but I know plenty of people that are. So I just kick them over to them to submit. Like right now, Cece's sister, I thought I saw Cece on here. We're trying to get one of her clients in for the Murray City program. Here are the approved lenders. Security National is a big one. Hillcrest, I know, Fairway, Flagstar, guaranteed rate. So, and again, I know a bunch of people in these organizations that we just kick them on over to get this done for you. I'd rather see you guys, don't worry about me. I'd like to see you guys get a deal done. If it saves the client 40, 30 grand, heck yeah, I'm going to make sure they get taken care of. So that is a caveat though. It does have to be an approved lender. So that's your Neighborhood Works. And Neighborhood Works, that's for Salt Lake County. If you Google Neighborhood Works, Weber County, Neighborhood Works, St. George, you're probably going to get something coming up. So that's another thing with grants before I forget. If you're ever curious and you're looking in a city, just Google that city and say home buyer assistance or home buyer down payment assistance. Something's probably going to come up, either with the county or the city themselves. So even smaller cities, I think Payson had one. I can't remember, but you Google them because they want people to come in. So they do, a lot of cities and counties do have programs. These are just kind of the big basic ones we'll go over. So that's Neighborhood Works with the approved lenders. Home Choice. Okay, this one's really cool. When I told you to keep thinking of someone, I had an agent in Salt Lake that says, hey, I actually know a few people that work for the state with disability, like they work with the disability department, and she's already in there marketing this, trying to get some clients so we can get them a down payment. So Home Choice, home ownership for persons with disabilities. What this is geared for is parents who are taking care of an adult child who has a disability that they have to stay home, but they can't leave the home, I guess. This is statewide. No max purchase price. The grant is up to 70 grand. And we can use that full 70 grand. I talked to the guy, I think his name's Mike. He's out of Logan, real nice dude. He's like, hey, I need to give this money away. If we know about federal budgets, if you don't spend it all, they're going to come back the next year and not give you just only what you spent. So he's like, I gotta spend as much as I can. And I asked him, I'm like, why aren't you marketing this? He's like, he hasn't really thought about it. So, so this is with parents who are taking care of a child with disabilities. Grants up to 70 grand. DTI restrictions, again, you get that thumbs up, you're good. Income cap, that's the only thing I'm not excited about. It's the 80% AMI again. Again, hopefully the numbers come out again next week that are higher. I can make some phone calls on that one. But I have talked to a few clients on this and they're pretty excited about it, especially the agents. She went up and started making some phone calls, and we probably already have some buyers lined up. Buyer contribution is just to be $500. Again, he's looking to give the money away, and he's like, just submit the package. All you really need is a letter from the doctor saying, yes, there is a disability. We don't want to know what it is, again, because it goes against HIPAA, but we just need a letter saying, yes, they have to stay home, or yes, the parents have to take care of them. That's all we need to know, just a letter from the doctor. Again, funds available. The only caveat is a 30-year term at a 1% interest rate. So it's not a silent second. You do have to make payments on it each month. It's 1% on a 30-year term, but that's really going to be like $60 a month, if that. So, hey, but that's pretty much, I mean, that's 70 grand. We can use up that full 70 grand too. So that could be the full down payment and closing costs. That's one I was really excited about when I was doing some research. Again, we'll send out these slides to you when we're done, and then a simple Google search of them, or contact me and we'll call the department up. Usually each county and city has their own home ownership department. They're all pretty cool to work with and really nice. They just want to get people into homes. So sorry, that's your Home Choice. No, this is the big one that came out last year. I got a lot of questions on. It's the first time home buyer assistance program, the new construction through Utah Housing. This is the one I got hit up a lot on. Now there are some again, you got to fit in the box. So I think they just upped the max purchase price is like 475, but when I did this, I'm gonna update this slide. It was for 450, and again, this has to be new construction. So good luck finding a 450 new construction out there. Income cap, I'm sorry, grants up to 20 grand. You can get that full 20. DTI restrictions, again, as long as you have that thumbs up. So no restrictions there. Income cap, it really depends on what, you have to go through Utah Housing to do your first mortgage. So it really depends on what program you're choosing. So your first home is going to have a lower interest rate, but you do have an income cap of like 114, which is still doable. But if you do second home, which is at a higher interest rate, which wouldn't make any sense, but I mean, you could go to second home for the income, which is like 153. So you can do that. As of a few months ago, there were 1,900 remaining, and this started off with 2,000. So if you can see, only 70 people or 65 people got qualified through this for a whole year. They're starting to pick up now. And the huge thing there is because you have to go through full underwriting to even apply for the grant. And full underwriting, that's going to the, I mean, that's getting all your stuff, all your income verifications, your IRS tax transcripts, going to an underwriter and getting the underwriter to write off on it. Now, this is the thing where a lot of lenders don't necessarily like this program because of that issue. Because what happens when, Tammy, we were just talking about this. What happens when I pre-approve someone and they go to a new construction? What usually happens? Yeah, so the builders always have their preferred lender and be like, hey, we'll give you 3% closing costs if you use our lender. The problem is I just spent 75% of my, like probably 75% of the file time you need to fund a loan. I've spent on it to get them approved for this grant, and they're just going to go over to the builder. The builder is going to kick them off. So some lenders aren't wanting to really do this because they're like, it's a 50-50 chance. I'm going to put all this work in, and then it's not going to work out. So that's the thing just to be aware of. Again, I don't care. I'm not even with Utah Utah Housing. So again, I just kick these over to someone that's approved with Utah Housing, and they deal with it. So what's nice about it is once you have that, we call it DE cert, once the underwriter signs off on it with the conditions and stuff, you have 90 days with an option to extend, but they'll reserve those funds while you go look and put in offers. The caveat really is, if you refinance or sell the house, whenever that is, you have to pay half of the whatever's less, either half the equity of the house or 20K, whatever's less. So worst case, you know, if you sell and you make 40 grand, you got to pay 20 grand back. Or you sell the house and you make 10 grand, you got to pay 5 grand back. So there's a caveat to paying this one back. Yeah, so that's the big one that came out last year. I got tons of questions on. It has to be new construction in Utah, correct? Yeah, there's some. We'll go over those. Great question, Marcel. So this one, yes, and that's what sucks for a refi. You say rates go down, which they are going to go down at the refinance. Guess what? We have to pay half the equity out or 20 grand. So that's going to suck when you have to do it, because then I might have to look at it as a cash out refi, which you get dinged on your rate. But if it's a purchase, maybe not. But just know, if you do refinance, when you refinance, you have to include that in the payoff and roll it into the first loan, or just pay it off in general. So that's kind of the caveat on that one. Another one we do a lot is the law enforcement and correctional officer down payment assistance. This is with Utah Housing as well. I just did this one with the correctional officer for Salt Lake County. Max purchase price, it just depends on your county and your mortgage product that you use for Utah Housing. Your grant is up to 3.5% of the purchase price, or up to 25 grand max. No DTI restrictions. Income cap, it really depends on what program you're using for the first mortgage with Utah Housing. Funds available as of a few months ago, 150 are left. No buyer contributions. Caveat, it will be forgiven if the officer is still in law enforcement after 60 months. Or we have that kind of 20% reduction in principal every 12 months until it's paid off. So it's kind of like that silent second that sits there, and after each year just goes down 20%. And then it'll be fully forgiven if again, they're in it for 60 months. So that's a pretty cool one. I do a lot of Leos here in Utah, so I always offered this one up for them. But a lot of the Leos are going VA. Usually they're Marines or Army guys or Navy guys, so we just go VA and we don't have to worry about the down payment assistance. But it's good to know. This one's also really cool. I get this one. If you have right now, guys, if you have any VA buyers, this is free money right here. You don't have to use Utah Housing. It is through them. Max purchase price, not there. You'll get up to $2,000. Actually, those give you $2,000. It's not even going to come on as the second mortgage or on title. It's just free $2,000. Really easy to do. You just submit the pack. You have to go get a cert from the VA. Really easy, actually, surprisingly. And then we submit it, and they go, okay, here's $2,000. Here are the wiring instructions. You know, Marcel, we're going to send this over. Done. So, so again, you don't need a Utah Housing first mortgage. You can just do a standard VA with whatever lender you have. Or you can even do conventional, but if they're a veteran, you can still get $2,000. It's free $2,000. You don't have to have a VA loan. They do have to be, I got to put this in here. I just found this out. It has to be 5 years removed from service or less. So that's the only kind of bummer. Funds available, 57 a few months ago. I think there was like 40. No buyer contribution. And again, this does not need to be a first mortgage with Utah Housing. It can be whatever lender you have. Again, you have any veterans that are moved from service 5 years or less. It doesn't matter who you're using. Tell your lender, get on the horn, get your clients $2,000. Really easy to do. On that note as well, if you do have a veteran, they have any percent of disability. I'm kind of going off topic here. Have them submit it to the county, and the county will take that percentage off their county property taxes. So I had a guy that was 100% disabled by the VA. We submitted, I think he pays like $200 in property taxes a year. And the county's pretty cool with it too. So if you, again, even if you sold someone a house or you're buying a house and you know they're a veteran and they have some type of disability, which most veterans should have, at least hearing loss, call the county up, save them some money on property taxes. So that's kind of a little side note, and that's a link to one of the flyers if you have any clients, or send that to your lender. Davis County just came out, this is about a year ago, just came out with a home ownership assistance program. I've talked to a few people about this one. Max purchase price is $500. Grants up to $50K. You do have some debt to income ratio restrictions. Again, front end, that's just your mortgage payment over your gross income at 35. That's pretty low. Most files I do aren't sitting that low of your debt to income restriction, but it's there. And again, you have that income cap of 80%. So most clients won't qualify for this, but it is worth a phone call. Again, gets them excited. A lot of clients don't know, it's like, hey, we can use your 401k funds. So again, this is kind of gets them excited. They start looking at homes. I really want this home. Okay, well, we can't get the grant program. Let's figure something out. And that's really cool about Americans. It's like, hey, let's figure this out. They almost always figure it out. They're like, I want this home. I'll make this work. So buyer contribution, $1,000. Funds available. I couldn't find it, so I would assume if they don't have any, there's going to have some back here in June. So anywhere in Davis County. Caveats, it's just going to compound annual at 1% with no monthly payments required. But when you go sell the home, that's going to be in there on the payoff. So just be aware of that one. Again, this QR code will take you to a brochure that Davis County made, we'll have more questions and stuff for you to answer. Own in Ogden, not just first-time home buyers. Ogden just really wants you to come live there. I've actually done this one with some Ogden City police officers a year or so ago. Max purchase price, 432 new construction, 428 existing home, which in Ogden City you could probably find. Grant is just up to 10K if you're just going to be owning in Ogden City just as a civilian. 15K if you're a city employee and K through 12 teachers serving in Ogden City, or 20 grand for Ogden City police officers or firefighters, but you have to be buying in Ogden itself. You do have some DTI restrictions, nothing too horrible. It really depends on their credit scores. Again, income cap, we do have it at 80%. So again, hopefully that goes up. There are funds available. Your max contribution is $500,000. 0% interest, and you just pay it back when you sell it or when you move out of the property and start renting it out. They do ask that you pay it back. That's if they find out you're renting it out. So, not forgiven based on time. Credit score minimum is 620. So, if you have anyone in Ogden, like looking in Ogden City, this is definitely worth just looking at. Or you know someone who wants to live around there. It's a lot of Hill Air Force Base guys I do in Ogden City, especially they're building up on the East Bench there. So this is just a good one for anyone you know wanting to live around that area. Here are some QR codes, and I'll send these out. Another one I looked at was Habitat for Humanity. Have you guys seen this one? I thought it was in the slide deck, but if you go in and actually put in, I think you have to put in a minimum of like 20 hours a week to help build this community. Then you can own a home in the community. I think right now it's in West Salt Lake, but I'll add that to the slides. You could probably just Google it actually. I don't know how to do, anyway. Habitat, if you just Google Habitat for Humanity Salt Lake, pretty interesting. Now there's only like 10 houses, but it's pretty cool. I mean, they look pretty nice, but you just have to put in sweat equity is what we call it. You have to just put in, it does, like 3-4 years, but still pretty cool. It's out there. So those are pretty much the grants. This is the big thing when you're talking to first-time home buyers, usually their biggest squabble is going to be with you. Hey, I don't have a down payment, or I don't have 20% down. So that's an old thing that's carried over from like the 80s. I need 20% down. I need 20% down. So you say, hey, technically you only need 3% down, but guys, I can maybe look around and shop around to see if I can get that covered for you. Would you still be interested in pursuing getting pre-approved and looking at houses if I can show you that? So that's usually the biggest predicating factor, is getting someone to start listening to you. Is like, hey, don't worry about the down payment, or if we don't gotta worry about it, just it's not that big of a deal. People usually say credit scores. Hey, if you saw there, a lot of them didn't even mention credit scores. As long as automated underwriting system from Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae give me a thumbs up, we're good to go. So usually if you're above a 580 to 620, it's going to be a wishy-washy, but if you're above 620, we can usually find something for you. So someone says, I don't have great credit. Well, what do you think your credit's at? They're like 640. It's like, perfect. That's fine. So, or even if they're at a 580, we just did a gal, she's at a 580. Hey, do you have parents that have a credit card they've had for 20 years? Yeah, they have an Amex. Add you on as an authorized user. Scores went up 120 points in a month. So there's some stuff we can do. So I don't even really worry about credit score unless they did just filed for bankruptcy. Then we kind of run into a problem. But a majority of the time, it's like, okay, yeah, you're sitting at 550. We'll do 2 or 3 things. You're going to be up to 640, 660 in 4 to 5 months. And in that meantime, we can be applying for your grants too. That's one thing. The grants are just very geographically centric. So especially when you're shopping with clients, you don't know what city you're going into. That's kind of the only hard thing. So just be aware of that. Just kind of just know what city has what. So you kind of, like I said, just Google it. It's going to have it up there. A big thing I hear too with first-time home buyer when I'm talking to them, it's like, hey, I just started a new job. It's like, okay, well, did you have an old job? Like, as long as the gap's not 6 months or more, usually we can get it done, especially if they're W-2'd, a W-2 client. If they went from a W-2 job, quit, shopped around for a month or two, got hired on a W-2 job again. I only need an offer letter. I don't even need them getting a pay stub. If I have an offer letter and they're starting within 60 days, we can go ahead and fund that loan. The only thing is if they go to self-employed, as we all know as real estate agents, as soon as you move to self-employed, then that becomes a problem. And it's like, yeah, we're going to need at least 1 year to 2 years of tax returns. But if they're W-2'd, which most clients are, they're W-2'd income, not a problem. And guys, if we hear about the 2-year history thing, I only need to go back 2 years of history, not 2 years recent. So you have a mom getting back into the workforce. Hey, I need you to be on that job for 6 months because you haven't worked for 10 years, but I can go back 10, 15, 20 years and get your job history there. And even school tax transcripts count as a job. So someone says, hey, I just started a job, or I just started the workforce. I've only been doing this for a year. I need 2 years. It's like, no, you don't actually. I just need 2-year history of you working. I don't need 2-year concurrent. So be aware of that. The only thing there is self-employment. So, and again, self-employment is a little tricky because I can only show or qualify you off what you show the IRS you make. We all know as consultants, we write off a bunch of stuff. So that's when it gets a little tricky. That's when absolutely talk to your loan officer, because there are some stuff that we can do and add back in, like depreciation or any kind of a paper loss like mileage or stuff like that. We can add that back in as income. So those are the big things I hear with first-time home buyers. Down payment, hey, don't worry about that. Credit score, not that big of a deal. Or if it is, we'll get it up. And then my job, again, do you have an offer letter? So those are the big things with first-time home buyers. You can easily objectify, say, hey, if we resolve this, would you still be interested in pursuing a home with me? So, and also if you have any questions, say, hey, that's a great question. Let me get with my lender and find out and get you an answer. But that's kind of a quick overview of grants. Again, hopefully someone popped up in your head, at least one person or maybe a few you can make some phone calls on, or even just call that city. I mean, get a call list of people in that city in Ogden and be like, hey, there's a grant program. Would you be interested in buying? You know, just get a call list. And I don't know if Marcel can help with that, but so that's kind of an idea of grants. Again, it's a small box your client's got to fit into. If they fit into it, great. Probability they're not going to, but by that time they're already excited. And like, again, they find a way. It's pretty amazing to see. It's like, hey, can you find 12 grand? Yes. Cool. So, and it just gets them really excited. So grants is just a great introduction talking point. Know your talking points. Just know they probably won't, but they're going to get excited. And they already see their dream home now. It's like, okay, we'll figure this out. Like, I'll make some phone calls. We can get gift from employers. So, I mean, there's stuff that we can do to help out. I have had clients get $1,000 from this uncle, get $500 from this aunt, get $2,000 from their parents. And like, I have like 6 gifts we can lump up for the down payment. It's just, like I said, it's pretty fun to watch clients. If they want that home, they're going to get it. So this kind of just starts them and getting them excited about purchasing their first home. So any questions? Classes they have to take is a home buyer course, and it depends on what grant they're taking. Because like I said, the neighborhood works when you got to go in for a whole day. Some of them will do the Freddie Mac home consulting one, which is free online, or some of them say you have to do the Fannie Mae one. The Fannie Mae one, it costs like $80 and takes you about an hour and a half to do online. So it really depends on what program they have to do. The brochures I had up, again, I'll send this off to you. The QR codes will have brochures to these, and it will tell you which one they need to do. Your lender also should know which one they need to take, and so you just direct them to it. They take the class, they print off a certificate, and then you're done. So at least one, if you have 2 or 3 borrowers, at least one of them needs to do the home buyer course, not all 3 of them. You just need one of them. So great question though. Anything else?
Brandt, most of, with the first time home buyer, do most of them go with the definition that they haven't owned a home in 3 years?
Yeah. Most first-time home buyers just haven't owned for 3 years, but a more majority of the time, they have never owned a home. But sometimes, yeah, they own a home in Florida, moved up here, they've been here 3 or 4 years. And then we go ahead and do a first-time home buyer. So it has to be 3 years, they haven't been on. Now, there is a problem with that. Sometimes parents are really nice and they'll throw their kid on title just in case. Guess what? Kids on title, they own a home. Technically, now they're not first-time home buyers. So watch out for that one. I've got that one a few times. It's like, oh, because they wanted to go on probate in case they were to pass away. Like I get the mentality of it, but sometimes it's like, hey, can you take yourself off of title and we can wait 3 years for you to be a first-time home buyer? But there a lot of the first mortgages, there's only a few first-time home buyer ones that are good, like you're 3% down. But even then, the first-time home buyer, like the only time first-time home buyers really matter are on these grants. Or you're going to really be dealing with that. The most of the time, you can still do a 3% down conventional if you've already owned a home. So that's just some stuff like that. But good question. Okay, we got some guests, right? Mike?
Yes, this is Eric, right? Or if you want to come up.
On this?
This? Oh, you already. Yeah, you're gonna go now. Here's a clicker for it.
Okay, so I'm Eric. I'm with AI. Sure how the clicker works, but
It's left to right.
okay. So we're a method definition company. I've been doing this 17 years, so I'm one of the ones that's been around for a long. I'm one of the ones that's been around for a long time. Nobody in the state, probably the country, has done more decontaminations than I have. I've trained people from all over the world, New Zealand, Australia, Europe, all over. They've come over to train with me. So what we deal with, this is from a lot of stuff that I teach in my CE class. If I don't talk to you guys about meth, who will? What do we do? So we go through, we decontaminate everything, illicit drugs, bio, everything you can think of. We'll go in there, tobacco smells, everything. Supposed to be clicking the button, I didn't. So do tobacco, order homes, odor, testing. We do mold remediation, and I also teach CE classes. So I taught them 4 or 5 years ago. I didn't do it for a while. I just got back into it again. Robin's actually introduced me to the brokerage and is going to set up some classes for me here, along with some other places. It can be fun. Depends how busy I am, how fast I'm trying to move through it. I'm more than welcome to any questions you have. Me, I'll answer any questions you want as fast as I can, and we'll move through it. So these are some of the houses that I have physically done myself. And the question is, which one's the meth house? So most people, all of them. So most people usually say, the one in the top left, because that's your West Valley home there. The one in the top middle. Most people only pick that one. That one was a son decided to get on meth. He had a huge inheritance, and the parents were just freely giving him money, and he was smoking dope in their house. So they were pretty upset with him and took away a lot of money from him. And then the one down there, that's Moab. You got your Rose Park house, the one down there in the bottom right. They're all meth houses, apartments, things like that. So if you don't think you need a meth test, just meth test it. It's $175, $150, depending on who you go with. Even if it's not me, just get it meth tested. It'll save you a lot of heartache in the long run, because if it tests positive when they go to sell it, right now, everybody's going back on from before who they bought it from and the realtors from before. So even if you don't suspect, still test it. It's cheap and easy to find out. If it is positive for meth, depending on what side you are, you're happy. If it's positive for meth, it's painting allowance, carpet allowance, sanitized HVAC system, sanitized house. If you're on the seller side, obviously then you've got to figure out how to get that paid for with the sellers. Usually we do a payout of close. It's a huge chunk, huge house. But there's different financing options that we can work with to help people get through stuff.
You just go up by the size of the house or the size of the job?
It's usually by square footage and debris. So debris is your biggest factor. So if it's a hoarder home, you're trying to sell it and you walk in and it's a little beyond a hoarder house, a little dirtier, more things taken apart, you test it positive for meth. The more debris there is, the more it costs, and it gets real expensive real fast because it's all labor, it's suits, it's more dangerous because we're worried about needles and fentanyl and things like that. Fentanyl's huge right now. It's unregulated. We still test for it. We always recommend testing with the meth. It's a little more expensive on the testing, but it could save someone from actually dying from it. So I've actually gone into houses and tested for meth and fentanyl, and the meth actually came up non-detect and the fentanyl hit. So, and I was very surprised. And then my guy actually sitting back there, he decontaminated the HVAC system, and the guy had hidden his urinalysis fake test in a return. So we were like, oh, well, he was definitely faking something here. So yep. So this is, see this placard on the door, don't go in. Go in, Class B misdemeanor, you can be arrested, you can be cited, you will get in trouble with the health department. They're actually cracking down on it right now. See that sign, call one of us, we can go in, we can survey it for you. We can find out what the levels are through the health department if they've been turned in. This is your first sign that, call somebody else. This sign, if I test it, because I'm certified, the sign will end up on the door if it tests positive. So, and this one, all the way back to 2012, and I cut off the address. And then Carla Bartholomew is the health inspector. She's one of the longest ones running down there right now in the meth program. She's awesome. She can help you out, answer tons of questions if you need to call her. So
She county or city?
county, Salt Lake County. So Salt Lake County, it's the whole county of Salt Lake. Taylorsville has different rules. The city's actually involved. If it's a drug bust or anything like that, and you're getting it sold, we have to go through a bigger process, costs a little bit more. We got to involve a whole nother CDS, Certified Decontamination Specialist, with more permitting fees. Taylorsville's kind of a thorn in most people's side right now, but they don't want the meth houses. They want them taken care of. If they're not, they actually start fining the homeowners. They actually take them to court and get a judgment against them saying, get this done in a certain amount of time or we're going to take your home. So it gets very, very exciting in Taylorsville. This is just kind of a funny skit thing. People not supposed to actually flush your opiates. And you're not supposed to just leave them out for kids to grab. So that's just supposed to correctly throw them away. Opiates being fentanyl, which is a painkiller, Loratab, Xanax, like that. They're all abusable. This is how you're gonna feel when you start it. When you see a positive meth test, the top picture, I guarantee you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, even if the debris is not in there. And then when we're done with you, decontaminated, the house actually is lighter, it's cleaner, it smells better. It's just a completely different feel in the house. You'll be almost glad that it came up positive for meth. The homeowners who are selling it aren't, but buyers will be much happier. These are some of the things we find in houses. This was a first aid kit that was actually supposed to be a first aid kit. And they stored all their stuff in it. It was quite fun. That's me taking down the light fixture. That's one of my old employees shot back in the house. Testing. We're testing real fast. So the ones with the squares, that's an actual certified test. We turn them into a laboratory. They give us numbers. They will actually determine how contaminated the home is. The one in the bottom right corner, Those ones are immunoassay tests. They give false negatives, false positives. They're just kind of a headache to some people. People get real excited over when they come up positive. And then I've gone in behind and found no meth. Or I've found it where it's a negative and actually found meth. So you can use them as kind of a baseline. I was discouraged against them. I have some in my shop. Some home inspectors really, really like them. So I don't even sell them. I don't want them. I don't like them. Just like, use it, but you're gonna end up retesting anyway, so it's twice the money for nothing. So, Mr. Snowman on meth. So you got December here, pre-meth. You got January, after Christmas, everybody's on meth. And then your R2D2 there. These are just some photos of actual meth houses I've walked into. You guys sometimes usually don't see a lot of that, but sometimes you do. People are in a bind. They can't pay their mortgage anymore. They're about to lose the home. They're trying to sell it. You walk in, you see something like this. This one, we actually found paraphernalia all over the place. It wasn't needles, but it was like cut straws, broken meth pipe, little meth baggies. It was hidden well enough that I actually had to stop and look amongst all the garbage, and I found it. So just some of it. Along with that, you're gonna see needles, straws, like that. There's, I just can't say a lot about that one. So, but hoarders take years to do. Your kids can do in 5 or 10 minutes. I didn't have a lot of time to talk. They only allowed me like 15 minutes, but does anybody have any questions, anything about the meth?
You spray solutions or what happens?
We do. So to decontaminate a house, we have to go in, we have to remove all the porous material, carpet padding. If the blinds are okay, we can usually save those. But most everything comes out of the house. To do a true decontamination, house has to be empty.
But not appliances.
Appliances can stay. We can decontaminate the appliances, blinds, and there's some furniture we'll test, but it just gets really, really expensive. Decontaminate gets really expensive. So, and we go through the entire HVAC system. So when I say sanitize, we actually use in our product. So we go in, we tear apart the blower motor on the furnace, we hand clean the electronics, hand clean the blower motor, go through that whole system. I mean, we set up, I have a huge air box. It pulls 3,000 CFM air through it. It's a pretty big air box. And then through each boot and return, we send 170 PSI of air down through that. So we've got that air box acting like a vacuum, and we're sending air down through all the boots. We're getting out all the dust, debris, dirty diapers, everything that's inside of those. We pull everything out, and then we start treating inside there and sanitize it. We go through the entire home, foam the ceiling walls and floors, and scrub everything and fog and spray everything a minimum of 3 times per state standard, along with rinsing everything down. We go through the cupboards, the countertops, the cabinets. We go through everything. We don't do inside the appliances because most mess heads don't eat a lot. They don't get in the fridge a lot. They're nasty inside. We don't even like to open them, but we'll clear out the contents. But if they're bad enough, we usually call them like, hey, you want to keep this refrigerator? Let me send you some photos. So
I had meth once, so they never explained to me what they did. Instantly, Bill.
who'd you use?
Meth bomb.
Meth Mob, yeah. So Meth Mob, I trained Meth Mob back when she got started. Ann Atkins is the owner, great lady, love her. We actually have lunch. All the CDs will have lunch once in a while and kind of,
Okay.
yeah. Well, we'll banter back and forth and tell each other what we're doing wrong and what jobs we've been behind and stuff, and try to improve our own. So I'm always looking to improve. We'll miss stuff. I'm always going, not always going back, but always wanting to improve and be better. So if it's in Salt Lake County, all the counties are getting involved now. He was talking about Ogden. It's great. Ogden's doing this wonderful thing to live in Ogden, but I know why they want it. Because they're trying to improve the district. They're trying to improve the city. It's a great city. But Ogden can be strictest when it comes to meth. So make sure if you do sell anything in Ogden, test it. Because they don't mess around in Ogden. They'll send police in there, drag people out by their ankles. They're not messing around. Ogden, Salt Lake County is right behind them. They're not quite as strict. You can bend and flex a little bit of rules. And then Davis County's involved now. Cache County. Utah County is getting more involved now. I've been on the phone with Brian down there quite a bit, trying to figure out how involved they actually want to be. So normally all these, we have to test with the health department present, or at least them supervising us going through, making sure we did our jobs. There's a lot going on, but that's why it's so expensive. Because we're being supervised by the county health departments, and kind of which county, they can be very, very strict.
What's the likelihood of, if there's a condo or an apartment and that's meth contaminated, then what are the chances of the neighboring apartment or condo being contaminated as well? And do you have any processes or procedures of?
Normally slim to none, because unless it's sharing air, like if it's a split entry that they've split up upstairs and downstairs sharing the same furnace, that's usually the only way they cross-contaminate that way. That doesn't pass through walls, it doesn't, unless they're buddies and they're smoking dope back and forth. Usually the neighbors are fine. I've actually had people, an owner owned a fourplex and he was worried about all four of them because the one smoke test, so we went and tested the other three were fine. Actually get that quite a bit. What's that? Yours was that fourplex. So, yeah. We're not the cheapest decontamination company out there. We do have a guarantee. In this business, you definitely will get what you pay for. If you overpay, obviously you're gonna take yourself to the pants. If you underpay, you're gonna get that guy that cut a lot of corners. They usually don't have the guarantee. I work with a lot of the other certified guys because we have to work together because of Taylorsville. So we all make sure we know each other, and we're pretty hard on each other. But if I go in behind somebody, I'm like, it's gonna pass. Are you sure it's gonna pass? I think what else?
Does insurance ever get involved? Homeowners insurance? That,
It did on mine.
Depends on how they classify it. So we're actually just finishing up a project in Kearns. And Kearns, Mayor in Kearns is crazy. She's like completely involved in her county. She's like, I know this house is meth contaminated. It's only got one furnace, and the police are involved. Everybody's involved. So, but that one, insurance company came in to pay for it under smoke damage or fire damage. I was like, I've heard vandalism. Some will pay for vandalism. Some will pay for the smoke damage or like renter's insurance because the renter did it. But this one, the dad was living there and was renting to meth heads. They covered it under fire. And I asked, and the agent's the one who did it. I was like, well, why you doing it under fire? He's like, smoke damage. We're smoking a lot of meth in the basement. I was like, whatever. I was like, I'm not insurance. I don't know. So if they can, so it's always, I always tell everybody when they ask, look into it, see if it's possible. Insurance companies pay right away. They pay often, they pay fast. And then it's not coming out of the seller's pockets, which, a lot of them they don't have any money. So local title companies will call them, give them the information, and the sellers don't even have to worry about it. It's just staying in contact with them. So it makes it easier on people and it's not hurting their checkbooks. So, yeah, and, you're welcome. There's bagels and my business cards and some stress ball apples and some brochures. Please take them. If you have any questions, call me. Yeah, lots of bagels.
I don't do stress about things.
I said that, you're like,
Well, I'm hoping to be your neighborhood meth guy. So
you're like,
thanks, Eric.
had that.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Like,
You have
I'll
that.
take that from
Are you
you.
the broker?
I am. Yeah. Are we good? Is that a wrap, Aaron?
That's a wrap.
Is that a wrap?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
That's you're the broker. So.
Okay. So whenever I do my sign on.
oh, but that's,
Yeah, actually.